Hello, my name is Jasmine Garcia. I'm a Human Resource Specialist for the OCHR Training and Development Center of Excellence. Teaching with me today is Jen Cano, who's also an HR specialist with the TDC. We're going to spend a little bit of time providing an overview of how you can use Microsoft Teams to deliver training or to demonstrate something to your team. We will be providing information about how to create meetings in Teams and how to manage permissions, how to set up Audio Bridge, and options for sharing your screen to present or train. Now, since this is a video recording using Microsoft Teams to present, you won't have the opportunity to practice live features and options we will discuss as if you were in a live MS Teams meeting. For that reason, it's very important that you make time after you complete this recording to practice in a live MS Teams meeting in order to become comfortable with the processes we will describe before you start conducting training. Your home screen is going to include some basic information. On the left-hand side of your screen, whether you're on a desktop app or on the browser version of Microsoft Teams, you'll see a list of menu options. I will be covering what options you have available to you, as well as what options you'll need to click on in order to access all the features for training. Your home screen in the CVR Hub gives you access to training videos. You can view demonstrations of Microsoft Teams, watch short videos about specific features within Teams, and you can enter help questions. In the activity feed, you'll see your recent activity. This is going to provide you with notifications if you've been mentioned in any channels and also if you've been added to any teams, plus additional activity and channels that's pertinent to you, such as changes to meetings. The chat menu option is going to include conversations that you have been involved with other individuals and groups. This will include chats within meetings. It will not include chats or conversations that have occurred within channels. Your Teams menu item is going to include all the teams that you're a member of, plus channels within those teams and conversations that occurred within those channels. So once again, those conversations are not going to appear in your chat, they're going to appear inside the channel in which they occurred. The next menu option is going to be your calendar. This is going to include information about meetings you have scheduled and links that will allow you to connect to those meetings. The calendar is similar to your Outlook calendar, and I will demonstrate that here in a moment. The calls option is going to include contacts and any call history. You can call people who have Microsoft Teams accounts, and that call will go straight to their cell phone if they've got the application downloaded on their phone. The calls menu item will also show any missed calls. The files option will show files that have been uploaded or shared within channels that will live inside of your MS Teams account. The last option is the ellipsis that allows you to connect to other applications within Microsoft 365, such as Microsoft Stream, SharePoint, Forms, Planner, and others. Your home screen will also show you the teams you are a part of. Teams are identified by an icon. You join teams by requesting access, and in some cases, organizers automatically add you to a team. Underneath each team, we have one or more channels. Channels do not have an icon next to them and always appear under a team. All team members can view channels underneath that particular team. There is an exception for private channels. Think of the team as a building and the channels as classrooms. When you go to a meeting or training, you first enter the building or team and then go into the classrooms, which in this case we'll refer to as channels. Remember, if you can see a team, you're a part of it. Let's talk about the features that you need to be able to access to effectively deliver training, which is mostly limited to these items. You can launch a meeting straight from a chat conversation by selecting Meet Now inside of a chat conversation. But remember that meetings from a chat are limited to 20 people. Your chat option may be used to share and display documents and presentations. Within a live training session, the chat feature may be used to either share information about the training, share files, and interact with the instructor and other participants. Conversations that have occurred in those training sessions will be preserved in your chat, so you can go back later and you can access a conversation that occurred during the meeting. This is important to know because the link for any recorded session will also be housed inside of that chat. The only exception is if that training session occurred in a channel, which I'll discuss later. You can also connect to or host a meeting inside of a channel. A channel is a subdivision of a team. Remember that channels and the contents inside a channel can be accessible to everyone who's a member of that team. When you create a channel meeting, it enables participants to click on that channel and connect to the meeting without the organizer having to send an invitation. The chat that occurs during a channel meeting, along with any shared documents, is preserved inside of the channel where that training occurred. For example, some activities have created a virtual classroom channel where all training occurs. This can be beneficial because it eliminates the need to send individual meeting invitations to all students for a particular class. You can simply announce that training will be occurring in the virtual classroom at a particular time, and anyone with access to that classroom can join. This is particularly helpful in cases of classes without preset rosters or that have more than one class date or time option. The challenge with this approach happens when you have people who you want to include in the training who are not part of that team, which means they will not have access to that channel. In this case, individual invitations to a session occurring in a meeting that is not within a channel is probably the best option. The third option is connecting to a meeting from a calendar invitation that was sent to you in your Microsoft Teams account. If you have a Microsoft Teams account and you were invited to a training or a meeting in your Microsoft Teams calendar, when the time approaches for your training, you can select that meeting and click Join. If you find you have an on-the-spot need for a meeting or training, and you don't want to schedule it on the calendar for the future, you can launch a meeting from a chat or inside a channel by selecting the small camera icon near the bottom of the chat. Or you can look for the Meet icon on the top right-hand corner of your screen. A second way to launch an immediate meeting is to go to your calendar icon and select Meet Now from the top right-hand corner of your screen. Before we set a meeting, let's talk about the types of meeting you can create. First, we have a standard meeting. A standard meeting is open by invitation. That means I have to enter the person's name into the meeting in order for them to get an invitation notification in their Outlook. The individual then joins the meeting by clicking on that link or joining through the calendar if they accepted that meeting. There is a way to create channel meetings. Channel meetings are great because they're open to anyone in that team. No automatic notifications are sent to Outlook because there's no need to add attendings when creating the meeting, but the option is still there. It's important to remember, though, that for channel meetings, the default is no automatic notifications to Outlook. Because the channel meeting is open, individuals can join the meeting through the channel, and all chat and any shared documents that occur during that meeting appear in the channel as well and are available for everyone to view as long as they're part of that team. Now let's create a calendar meeting. Start by clicking on your calendar icon At this point, if you're following along in your own Microsoft Teams account, you can click on your calendar icon to the left. You can enlarge the thumbnail by clicking on it. If you're using Microsoft Teams on your mobile device, you will probably see the calendar icon near the bottom of your screen. If you're ready to practice, click on your calendar icon. But if you'd rather watch for now and practice later, that's okay too. If you're responsible for creating a meeting or scheduling a training session and inviting attendees, you will select New Meeting from your calendar. You will need to enter meeting details such as the meeting title, the time zone, and the attendees that should be invited. In this case, you can enter the attendees' last names and search for their contact in their automatic drop-down, or you can type an email address into the attendee list. In most cases, you will be inviting internal attendees, meaning DoD participants who have Microsoft Teams accounts, and therefore should appear in a list of contacts when you start typing their last and first name. If you have not been using Teams as much, you may find that you don't have many contacts appearing automatically. The workaround for this is to exit your calendar meeting, go to your chats, and enter a person's last name and first name as if you were sending them a new chat. This will populate that person in your contacts, and then you can go back to your Microsoft Teams calendar and add the person to the meeting using their Microsoft Teams display name. On occasion, you may run across someone whose account hasn't been activated. In this case, you can simply invite them by entering their email address. They will be treated as a guest when they enter the meeting, which will restrict their interaction options, but they can still participate. You will also need to set the date and time of the meeting. Meetings default to 30 minutes, so if your meeting lasts longer, be sure to change the duration. You may also need to double check that your Microsoft Teams has the correct time zone set for you, and you should see that near the top of your calendar appointment. If your meeting will occur in a channel, because all of the attendees for the meeting are part of a single team, for example, all members of a specific command, you can select your channel here. As of the time of this recording, meetings cannot be scheduled in private channels. If you have additional details to provide about your training, such as learning objectives, pre-work information, point of contact information, or teleconference line, you can enter the information here. I would like to pause here to let you know that you can set up an audio conference bridge within Microsoft Teams with a dedicated phone number that will always automatically appear on any meeting you schedule. It will not appear in meetings that you have already scheduled prior to setting up your audio bridge. When you are first setting up a meeting, your audio bridge will not appear in the details. You have to save your meeting and then come back into it to look at that phone number. Here I have a meeting that I scheduled. Once I reopen the meeting, I see that my phone number and conference ID populated in the details section. I also now see that I have meeting options that I can click on to change lobby settings and presenter status. Meeting options is not supported in all browsers. Try Google or Edge. Before we move on to complete our class invite, I will show you how to request an audio conference line for your meetings. If you choose to create an audio conference bridge, which we recommend as it will make audio delivered via Teams seamless, your phone number will always stay the same, but the access pin for each meeting will change. You can request audio conferencing by selecting Get Help in the CVR Hub. Scrolling down until you see the self-service option near the bottom of the screen, and then click on Audio Conferencing Request. By following the instructions that come next, you will be submitting a ticket to obtain your audio conferencing phone number and PIN. You'll receive these in an email in your Outlook. This is the same screen where you can go to submit a ticket to change your default time zone. if it's not already in the correct time zone. Both you and the people you have invited to this meeting will see the appointment on your calendar. When your meeting is within a few minutes, a join button should appear on your calendar appointment. You can click the join button and you'll be taken straight into your meeting or training. If you open your calendar and you see the meeting there, but you don't see the join button, it may mean that you're looking at it just a little bit too early. All you need to do is open that calendar appointment by clicking on it. When the calendar appointment opens, you will see the join button located on the top right corner. If you're already connected to MS Teams and you click on your calendar invite to join, you'll go straight to the meeting. However, if you aren't already logged in and you join using an invitation link from your email, you may be prompted with some questions about how you want to connect for audio and video. You may be notified that Microsoft Teams wants to connect to your camera or to your microphone. Select the appropriate option. If you're using an NMCI computer, you may find that there are certain options that are not available to you, especially if you don't have a headset. You can actually just select continue without audio or video, and then you can make changes to the selections once you get into the meeting. After you selected your device options, and just before you enter the meeting, you will be given some options to allow you to maximize your connection during the meeting. You will also be given the option to set your microphone to mute before you join the meeting. If you have a headset, or if you're accessing a session using a personal device that has an organic microphone connected, you may want to select to mute your microphone before joining the meeting. You may also see a notification letting you know that there are a certain number of people already in the meeting, and the default will be to mute your microphone. You can toggle on or off different options before you join the meeting. Remember, if you're connecting to the meeting using a teleconference line, make sure that you call into that teleconference line and mute your telephone before you join the meeting. Once you have all your settings in place, click on Join Now, and remember that you can make changes to those settings once you get into the meeting if needed. If you're connected to the meeting using a teleconference line, you may not need to worry about these options. Many government computers do not have cameras or organic microphones. What you do need to remember is that if you're connecting to the meeting using a teleconference line, audio may still be coming from your computer. In this case, be sure to also mute your computer speakers once you get into the meeting to eliminate echoes. I also want to point out the callback option. If on this screen you see other join options and phone audio, feel free to click here for Teams to call you and join you into the meeting through your phone. Once you click here, you'll see this screen. Enter your cell phone number and Teams will call you in a matter of minutes. You may also see this, no microphone. We didn't find any mic on your PC. Connect a mic so others can hear you, but there's also the option for Call Me Back. Press on Call Me Back, and again, you'll be taken to this option where you can enter your phone number and Teams will call you to connect you to the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, you will see an options panel if you hover over the display screen. If you don't see the options panel, move your mouse all the way to the bottom of your screen, then mouse over the presentation area. The options you have available to you as a participant will include the ability to mute or turn on your microphone. You'll be able to view or hide your chat screen. To view the chat panel, click on the conversation bubble. You can also view attendees by selecting the icon with the two people on it. You can only see the chat screen or the list of attendees. You can't see both at the same time. So by viewing one, you'll be hiding the other. Once again, you can view the chat, you can view the attendees, and then your last option is going to be to leave the meeting. So be careful when using that option. If you're a presenter, you may have a tendency to want to click on that icon to stop presenting. But remember, that's going to take you out of the meeting entirely. You will either see a red X or you'll see a red telephone icon. Either one of those options is going to disconnect you from the meeting. You can always reconnect to the meeting by finding the invitation on your calendar appointment or by going back into your email and selecting the meeting link. If you are joining the meeting as a guest, if you received an invitation in your email with a URL to connect to the meeting and not via the MS Teams CVR, you will be treated as a guest and you will see a notification indicating that you're waiting in the lobby and will be connected to the meeting shortly by the organizer. If you're the meeting organizer or presenter, you'll get a notification letting you know that someone is trying to join the meeting. Usually in the DoD environment, the notification occurs when people are using their cell phones to connect to audio, or if someone's joining the meeting as a guest because they're not logged in to the CVR account.
When you join a meeting, you may see a black screen, a screen with initials and profile photos, or the presentation if the presenter is already displaying it. In order to see the chat panel, you'll need to select the chat icon from the options menu. For your awareness, if you are connecting to a training using a mobile device, this option to toggle on your chat will appear in a different place on your screen and it's going to look a little different. Also, there may not be the ability to see the presentation slides and the chat on the mobile device screen at the same time. As a presenter or trainer, if you are presenting alone, be sure to build in pauses to check the chat frequently. Even better if you can assign someone to keep an eye on the chat for you and relate to you any questions or comments, or if they happen to be another subject matter expert and can respond to questions themselves, that will help reduce distractions for you as a presenter. Once you select the chat panel, it will appear on the right-hand side of the screen. As a presenter, you may want to have some prepared information that you wish to publish in the chat pod, such as the conference call line, files, or any quick troubleshooting tips. One best practice is to have some screenshots to show how to disconnect from the VPN to publish early in the chat in order to help people who are experiencing connection problems. If you want to enter a message, share information, or welcome everyone, type a message in the box at the bottom and click on the little arrow on the right-hand side. You can also use emojis, and there are options to attach files, use GIFs, and a few other options in the chat panel. If you are the meeting organizer or presenter, you will also have the option of sharing your presentation. Select this icon to move to the different options for sharing your presentation. If you are not the presenter, you may still see this option depending on your status in the meeting. Remember that while Microsoft Teams can be used for training, it was originally built as a collaboration platform and not a training platform. So the default settings for any meeting will involve allowing everyone in the meeting equal access to share, control, publish, chat, and make changes to attendee status. There are options to change meeting settings when you create a meeting, but as a presenter, you also have the ability to change the status of attendees after you get into the meeting. Here you will see a list of the 3 sharing options we'll be discussing with benefits and drawbacks for each option. A desktop or Windows screen share will allow the best functionality for participants and reduce the likelihood of problems with the audience seeing visuals due to security issues. Additionally, if you plan to record your session, this is the best way to ensure the recording captures your slides. The drawback to this method is for presenters who have only one monitor, because you will be showing your slideshow in presenter mode. It will fill your screen and you will not be able to see Microsoft Teams, which means you will not be able to see participants raising their hands or submitting questions or comments in the chat pod. You can mitigate this issue as a presenter by having a producer keep an eye on MS Teams for you, or you can run MS Teams on a second device, such as a mobile device, so you can keep an eye on the audience there. The second option is to upload a file. If you do this, you as the presenter will be able to see the slides inside of Microsoft Teams and also view and respond to the chat. The drawback to this method is that a recording will not capture the slides. Additionally, participants connecting on a mobile device may not be able to see the slides. The third option is to upload your presentation or file for sharing into your MS365 OneDrive. This allows you quick access as the presenter, and you can view your presentation inside of MS Teams along with being able to view and respond to chat. However, the drawback is that the participants connecting on a DoD device may experience a blurred screen and need to refresh MS Teams regularly to be able to see the slides clearly. This means they will need to disconnect from the meeting and reconnect, which can be distracting for the presenter. All told, the option with the best chance for success is the desktop or Windows screen share, particularly if you exercise the mitigation methods discussed. Now, before I show you your options for sharing or presenting in a meeting or training, I want to make sure that it is clear that PII is not to be shared through Microsoft Teams. This means that you need to ensure that if you are sharing a browser window, database, Excel spreadsheet, or other file, it is not displaying PII. If you want to demonstrate something, it is best that you capture some quick screenshots and paste them into a PowerPoint slide deck or onto a Word document, ensuring that no PII is showing. If you need to provide some training for someone who is having trouble in a live system or with a file with PII on it, then MS Teams is not the place to do it. As a presenter, you have three basic options for sharing material with the rest of the attendees. You can upload a PowerPoint file, you can share a specific application window, or you can share your full desktop. Each option has benefits and drawbacks, as discussed. First, we'll talk about uploading a file. If you choose to upload a file, you can select it from any recent files you have accessed within Teams, or you can browse for that file elsewhere on the computer or in your OneDrive. The benefit to sharing a file this way is that you will view it inside of your Teams window, which means you will also be able to simultaneously view the chat and attendees because everything is happening right inside of Teams. The drawback is that if you choose to record your session, MS Teams will not capture the visual presentation in the recorded video. It will only capture the audio. Additionally, others in the meeting can take control of the presentation if they are not in attendee status. When a presentation is shared by file upload in Microsoft Teams, you will see your presentation controls here. This will be visible to all participants, whether they are presenters or not. The presentation controls will show what slide you're on and allow you to move forward and backward between the slides. Attendees will also have the ability to flick back and forth between the slides without affecting the presentation for others, and then they can sync back to the slide the presenter is showing. The presenter can disable the function for participants to independently navigate through the slides by clicking on this icon of an eye. If there is a slash through it, it means everyone is seeing the slide the presenter is showing, and it removes the ability for participants to move forward or backward independently in the slideshow. This is helpful if the presenter does not want participants to get ahead, or if the presenter always wants to ensure participants are looking at the same thing. When you are finished presenting, you can select Stop Presenting. This will keep you in the meeting, but stop the file sharing so participants will no longer see the screen you were displaying. The other option for sharing your presentation is by selecting Desktop or Window from the options once you click on the Share icon. They may appear as two separate options depending on whether you're using the browser or desktop app version of Microsoft Teams. The benefit to these options is that you can easily select an application window that is already open or your whole desktop, and participants will view what you are sharing in real time. This can be a good choice if you are trying to demonstrate a website or a process, because the audience will be able to see exactly what you are doing on your screen. Be careful not to share PII over Microsoft Teams. Unlike the option of uploading a file, if you choose the desktop or window option for sharing, Microsoft Teams will be able to capture the video if you use the recording function. The drawback to this option is that when you are sharing your application window or your desktop, while your audience will see what you are presenting inside of their Microsoft Teams window, you as the presenter will not see it inside of Microsoft Teams, so you will not be able to see the chat pod. If you have more than one monitor, it might not be a problem because you can have Microsoft Teams up on your second monitor. But if you have only one monitor, your Microsoft Teams window may be behind the app that you are sharing. It isn't complicated to get back to Microsoft Teams, but it will be important to know how to do it and to set your training pace to allow you to check the chat pod at regular intervals for questions, comments, or other issues. Once you have selected desktop or window from your share options, your next screen will prompt you to select which sharing option you want. This will look just a little bit different whether you are using the app or the browser version of Microsoft Teams, but generally you will be provided with an option to select an application window that is currently open on your computer, your full screen, or a browser tab. If you select the application window tab, you will be provided with the option of selecting an application window that you currently have open on your computer. Find and select the application window that you want to display in Microsoft Teams for your audience. If you are sharing a PowerPoint presentation, remember to share your slides in presentation mode so that it will show up as large as possible inside of Microsoft Teams for your audience. Something else to be aware of is that you have to have your PowerPoint window expanded to full screen. Otherwise, when you present it, your audience may see it cut in half. When you're ready to share the screen that you wish to share, you can select Share in the bottom of your window. When you have selected either your desktop or an application window to share, your screen will show that app or your full screen outlined in red, and you will see an options bar that will allow you to stop sharing when you are finished. You may also see a thumbnail version of the Microsoft Teams meeting somewhere on your screen. This is what you will click on to go back to the meeting to check on the chat, answer questions, or follow up on audience engagement. In other words, as a presenter, your screen will be filled with whatever option you have selected to share, and you'll see a thumbnail version of your meeting somewhere on your screen. In order to go back to the meeting, click on that thumbnail and it will open back up and fill your screen again. Click on Stop Sharing to end sharing your screen or window. When sharing your desktop, the audience continues to see any windows you open or close until you click Stop Sharing. Whether you are presenting or attending a training session, you will still have access to your menu in Microsoft Teams. You can look at your calendar, or you can go back and look at other chat conversations, or you can go back to the CVR hub and view the features there. So you can do some multitasking while you're in Microsoft Teams. Accessing other options inside of MS Teams won't affect what others are seeing in MS Teams unless you are sharing your own desktop or you have chosen to share your Microsoft Teams application window. It is also important to know that if you are in an MS Teams meeting at any time, your screen will always show the thumbnail of your meeting in the foreground, so it is possible to do some multitasking while you are in a meeting, even if you are not the one presenting. While all DoD employees were provided with an MS Teams account, not everyone has set it up yet. Even without enabling their Microsoft Teams account, individuals can still participate in a training session delivered in MS Teams, but they will be participating as a guest and will not have access to some of the features available to those with accounts. In those cases, you would simply share the meeting invitation with the person by sending it to their email address. The second thing to remember is that frequently, if you are connecting to Microsoft Teams training or meeting on your DoD laptop, there's a good chance that there are some settings in place that will prevent you from being able to see or hear some of the visual or audio features that would normally be seamless if you were connecting on a personal device. We're next going to talk about some of these common issues. So a quick recap of the most common issues experienced by DoD users of Microsoft Teams. As an instructor, knowledge of these issues and how to fix them in advance will drastically reduce the chaos and stress that often accompanies virtual learning. Common issues include seeing only a black screen after the presenter has shared a slideshow. You may see on the screen a message that says cannot display content, or if it seems like there's information that's being shared over audio and you cannot hear it, or it's past the start time and you suspect the training has started, but you can't see or hear it. It's often a connection issue on the user end. In the next few slides, we'll talk a little bit about the information that will help you to troubleshoot some of those issues that are pretty common with connecting to Microsoft Teams training on a DoD laptop. If you've been using Microsoft Teams regularly, you're aware of these issues, so I'll touch on them quickly, but as a presenter, it will be important for you to be aware of them so you can assist your audience. The first and most common issue that prevents people from being able to see a presentation in a Microsoft Teams hosted training is being connected to the VPN. If you are connected to the VPN, whether you are using the Microsoft Teams desktop application or on the browser version, the VPN is going to prevent you from being able to see the visuals. Most likely what you're going to see will be a black screen. So even if you are successfully able to connect to Microsoft Teams and you are in the meeting and can see the chat, the VPN will prohibit your seeing the presentation. To disconnect from the VPN, First, select the up arrow from your taskbar in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Next, find the Pulse Secure icon. It will look like the letter S with a green arrow pointing up through it. This indicates that you are connected to the VPN. Right-click on that Pulse Secure icon, find the network you're connected to, right-click on it, and select Disconnect. I find that if I'm connected to the internet using a Wi-Fi connection, I usually get bounced from my internet connection about a minute or two after disconnecting from the VPN. If that happens, simply reconnect to your internet connection first, and then reconnect to your meeting. These steps are specific to NMCI computers, but anyone connecting using a VPN should have similar steps to disconnect from their VPN and reconnect to their internet connection. If you have confirmed that you are not connected to the VPN and you are still unable to connect to the meeting or see and hear what you are supposed to see and hear, then you can first switch to the other method of accessing Microsoft Teams. If you are on the browser, then try the app. If you are on the app, then try the browser. If you have tried the app and the browser with no success, then try a different browser. Remember that Chrome and Edge are the recommended browsers for Microsoft Teams. If you're finding that you're not hearing information that's being provided over audio, then obviously first double check to make sure that your speakers are on and not muted. If your speakers are on, then it could be that the audio for that meeting is not being provided through Microsoft Teams. It may be provided over a teleconference line. The teleconference line should be provided on the invitation you received for the meeting. You may also check the chat pod. That audio conference line may be provided in the chat pod somewhere. So one of these steps should resolve whatever issue you're experiencing, whether it's having a black screen and not able to see the visuals, or not being able to hear the audio for the meeting. I want to take a moment to mention that CVR accounts that are inactive for 35 days will be disabled. You will receive notifications on your email about your impending deactivation with information on which actions you can take to prevent deactivation. Actions will include logging into Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Forms, SharePoint 365, or any of your other CVR-provided Microsoft 365 applications. In order to ensure that your audience is able to connect to Microsoft Teams using their CVR account, it's a good idea to send a reminder a few days prior to your class, prompting them to ensure they can connect. If they find their account has been deactivated, they can submit a ticket via the self-service method for your organization, which can be found in the CVR hub under self-service. One additional thing I wish to share is the issue of echoes over the audio. First, let me explain what usually happens and give you a spoiler alert. When a person is talking, and while they are talking, you hear a terrible, distracting echo, it is unlikely that it is the person who is talking who is causing the problem. Most likely, the echo is being caused because there is at least one person who is connected to the audio using two methods, phone and via their computer. In other words, their phone is picking up the audio coming out of their own computer's speakers. I will show you one quick trick to help fix this issue, but you can always tell your audience to mute their computer speakers if they are connecting to the session by phone. I'm going to mention these two items quickly, and then I'm going to demonstrate them. First, when you are in a meeting or training session, you can mute everyone by showing the attendees list, and from the ellipsis near the top of the attendees, you can mute everyone. This will mute all of your attendees, so make sure your presenters know how to unmute themselves, which is by pressing *6 on their phone or selecting unmute from their device. The other option that will make your training run a little smoother is to make everyone an attendee. Because MS Teams is a collaboration platform, everyone has the same level of access to what is happening on your screen. Basically, everyone's default status is as a presenter, so they can take control of your screen, publish or share their own screen, mute or unmute everyone, and other options. In order to avoid this, you can consider changing the status of all of your non-presenters to attendee, vice presenter. There are two ways to do this. First, you can individually change people's status to attendee once they connect to the meeting. The second method is to set this up in your meeting options when you first create the meeting. All right, so there are two ways to do this. First, you can individually change people's status to attendee after they join the meeting. You can do this by selecting the ellipsis to the right of the person's name and select Make an Attendee from the drop-down menu. They'll change their status, they'll get a notification saying that they were turned into an attendee, and then their engagement options will be slightly limited, but they'll still be able to participate in the training. The second option you have is when you create the meeting, you can change the settings for all participants. You can do that by going into your calendar, selecting the meeting, and selecting meeting options near the top of your screen. Under meeting options, you'll be taken to your browser, and it will give you the option of turning everyone into an attendee, as well as allowing participants to bypass the lobby. Your second option for changing everyone's status to attendee is by going into your calendar, going back to your meeting invitation, and selecting meeting options from the top of your screen. When you do that, you'll be taken to your browser, where your meeting options will appear. You can let callers bypass the lobby, which will allow people to join the meeting without having to wait to be let in. You can also change who can present. And if you select specific people, this will mean that anyone who is not a presenter is going to automatically be made into an attendee, which will limit their interaction options and eliminate the possibility for others to take control of the presentation or make changes to the meeting status because they're an attendee and those options won't be available to them. Now that we've provided you with some key information you need in order to conduct a session using Microsoft Teams, it will be important for you to actually practice. The more you use MS Teams, the better you will get and the better equipped you will be to assist others. I cannot emphasize enough that MS Teams looks to be the semi-permanent method for delivering training, and as a leader and trainer, there are some valuable features for you as you support your team. You probably have already experienced desire to see what your employee is looking at so you can better assist them, or to find better ways of training your team or conducting collaborative meetings. At this point, you should be comfortable with connecting to Microsoft Teams for your own training. Now you can start moving into using it yourself for some OJT for your team. We recommend that you visit the CVR Hub within your Microsoft Teams platform to access some additional videos that will help you with effectively accessing Microsoft Teams and using all the features available to you. There are plenty of videos that are under 1 minute that can quickly help you with learning how to perform a number of different activities using Microsoft Teams that will enhance the user experience for you. You can select Getting Started with Microsoft Teams, or you can select Become an Expert. You can even search help items by keyword to find some quick videos that are 1 minute or less to show you how to perform specific things within Microsoft Teams. We want you to know that there is also a basic intro to Microsoft Teams video that everyone should access, available in MillSuite, and the URL to that video is shown on the slide. For DON users, you can find additional tips and tools for virtual learning on the OCHR course registration page, the URL for which is also included on the slide. So thank you for your attention, and we hope you found this information helpful.